Hi, I'm Aeon, and this is a video. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to more Jam Trash. Today, we're going to be discussing the addition of... I don't know if you can hear that. The addition of codependence on the list. If we go here to the demon list, as you can see here, on number 8, we have codependence by the TC team. And what I want to do today is discuss a little bit about what this implies. Because, for those of you who do not know, this is an older level. This has been out for a very long time. The reason why this is very exciting is because this is a 2-player level in the top 10. Not that it being top 10 really means anything, but it's interesting to see a 2-player level get placed on the list again, because the last time that happened was, I'm fairly certain it was with Duello Maestro. So if we go to the time machine here, and we go 2017, we'll just go random day in March, right? March 8th, and then we scroll down. Here you go, Duello Maestro. Currently Legacy, obviously, but it is very cool to see that a 2-player level is on the list again. And I want to talk a little bit about the implications and what this means for the list, and just talk and air a lot of thoughts about it. Because admittedly, this is a very big change to the list. 2-player is a very weird concept to wrap your head around. I will say, before we start anything though, I do really wish that in the name itself, in codependence, it would specify parentheses 1 player, parentheses end. Just because, to avoid confusion, because I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, I could just be codependent with my friend. I have a top 10. Right? And it's just kind of one of those things where that's going to irk a lot of people. It's going to drive a lot of people mad, myself included. I'm going to get those comments a ton of times. But I think it's really, really cool in a lot of ways. One thing that I will say, though, is that I've seen a lot of people be like, it feels weird to see something like this on the list again, because with Duello Maestro, no one really cared because the list didn't have that much power and that much influence within the community. However, now it does, right? A lot of people was like, it feels weird to be able to beat a top 10 with relative ease, because you could just beat it with another player, right? But that's kind of like why I think this is a cool change, because now Pointercrate kind of like removed from the whole these are the hardest levels, go play them, and more of a list of accomplishments ranked by difficulty. Because right now, or up until now at least, the list has always just been like a these are the hardest levels, right? Now it's more of a these are the hardest things accomplished by the community with rated levels. Obviously, I have to mention the fact that they're rated levels because the list only accounts for rated levels. There are other levels that haven't been rated that are on the list. However, I think this kind of like makes the list more of an accomplishment ranking, if anything. Codependence is a level that anyone can beat. I can just like get a friend of mine to come down here and we can beat it together, and oh, my hardest is the 800 level in the game. That is not how it works. It is an achievement thing now. And I think that's very cool, because at that point, it makes it so that it's less about hard farming levels to the list, and it's more like, these are cool achievements that people have accomplished. There's a list of them in numerical order based on perceived difficulty, and I think it's really cool. One thing I will say, though, is that I feel like codependence being on the list is going to be a little weird, because there are some very skill set reliant levels on the list currently. Silent Club, Sigma Circles, to name 2. Those 2 are incredibly reliant on your specific skill set as a player, and I'm not gonna lie, this might be the most insane one of all time, because it's gonna be impossible to accurately place this based on the nature of the level itself. Because one thing is being able to click the button accurately, like you have to just like click one key, and obviously you're gonna be able to play that for fairly well. However, with this, you need to be able to do 2 things at the same time. You're practically playing 2 levels at the same time, and that's what makes it really, really difficult. So it's never gonna be accurately placed. I'm pretty sure right now it is placed solely on the opinion of 2 people who are very capable of playing with both their hands. I could see this very easily being the top 1, or literally anyone else. Zoink said himself he's not going to be touching it with a 10-foot pole. If it gets placed, he's like, nah, screw that. I'm not doing the top 10 ever again. Don't care. And I don't blame him, because this is genuinely impossible. Like, codependence was specifically made to not be able to be done by 1 player. It is named codependence for a reason, right? It was made to be non-playable by 1 person, because it does not follow any rhythmic sense. It has no like actual music theory involved with creating the gameplay. It is literally 2 insane demons stacked on top of each other. Play both of them. You can't like be like a percussionist and do it in that sense, which is what makes it so difficult in the first place. The thing that I do think is really cool, though, is that a lot of niche players are going to be able to complete a top 10 while it's top 10, obviously, because the gameplay itself isn't super hard. As I said, it's 2 insane demons stacked on top of each other, but a very specific niche skill set of players and subset of players are going to be able to do this. And I feel like now that it is at the top 8 mark that it is, I feel like a lot of people are going to start playing it and trying it out, and we're going to see a lot of new players just rise the ranks and be able to do top 10 for themselves. And I think that's really cool. That's just me just wanting to see people do stuff that's cool and unique, right? And codependence is definitely going to be one of them. I think we're going to be seeing a decent chunk of players who you've never heard of before who are just going to be beating codependence because that's just a very niche specific skill. Because there is a dedicated server and sub-community dedicated to 2-player levels beaten by 1 player. We're going to be seeing that a lot going forward. I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be super cool. One thing I did see, though, mentioned is that I'm not gonna name names because they don't want to be named, but I did see someone mention that Bang Gang and Mortician were beaten by 1 player while they were deemed to be list worthy by 1 player and they weren't placed on the list. I don't want to say that this is just like changing the rules dynamically to fit an agenda because, oh, they were like top 130, this is a top 10, obviously the top 10 has to be placed on the list. That's not what I'm trying to say. I do, however, think it was a little bit silly, and I do think the people who did beat Bang Gang and Mortician so low while they were list worthy should have gotten the recognition, but that's just the past problem. That's not something we can change now, but I do think it was worth mentioning. And a last point that I do want to mention, and something that I think personally is a little bit silly, I have like a main talking point before I just go on and say my spiel about like, oh, congratulations Pukklez and Reptilian and so on and so forth, is that I've seen a lot of people talking about the main list is now impossible, can't complete the full main list, and I don't ever think that was a concern for the list. The list was created as a ranking to rank the hardest levels in the game, to rank people's achievements. I don't think it was ever meant to be by a single person. I think the only reason this is a relevant concern is because N-Switch has accomplished it, and Zoink is continuing his efforts to beat as many as possible, and he maintains his 70+ main list, right? I think that is the only reason this is even a concern to begin with. If no one had ever beaten the main list, no one would give a shit. So I think it's kind of like a silly thing to like get wrapped up around, but I understand why people think it, right? Because I've heard a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to beat the full main list. I think it would be really cool to just have a sense of accomplishment of beating the full main list. People who are like up-and-coming players and rising players who want to become the best at some point when Zoink inevitably gets dethroned at some point, either because he quits or because a better player somehow arises, right? But I don't know. For me, that feels like a silly thing. Like, if anything, beat it with a friend of yours and just don't care about your Pointercrate stats viewer. You've still completed the level, even if it's not completed in the top 10 state that it currently is in, that you have to beat single player, right? So that's just kind of like how it works, how it rolls. And I understand it. I do fully get that, right? It's a thing that a lot of people are going to be not necessarily worried about, but they're definitely going to be like, I wanted to beat the whole thing, but now I can't, right? I was going to get good, but I can't do it myself. I mean, other than that, I do think this is very exciting. Again, congratulations, Pukklez and Reptilian. Very cool. I think this is awesome. Oh yeah, there's one more thing. A lot of people were like, Reptilian called it way harder than Limbo. Why did it place above Firework? And I think Zoe said something along the lines of, called it way harder than Limbo. And if something is way harder than Limbo, threshold for that is Secret Circles. But they didn't want to call it harder than Secret Circles. So it's like a placeholder placement, because way harder than Limbo is not like 1 spot above Limbo, right? It's still just a temporary placement until somehow some more people beat it that have experience with the high end of the list. We'll never know. I kind of doubt that, but we're gonna see what happens. Either way, yet again, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Congratulations, Pukklez and Reptilian, for being the first 2 victors and verifier. Was verified Reptilian, first victor of codependence. Very cool achievement. This is one of those things I've been watching for a long time. I was watching Pukklez' streams actively while he was trying to verify it, and I think it's really cool. Show some support. Tell me what you guys think about the whole list thingy, because to be fair, it is a very weird situation, but it's going to be exciting to see how things are handled in the future. And I'm kind of excited to see if we're going to end up getting more 2-player levels on the list now that it's a skill set that can be pushed to its absolute limits. I think that's the most exciting thing. We're going to be seeing a lot of people who are very good at 2-player stuff able to push 2-player as like a skill set. I think that's very exciting. Let me know what you think. Subscribe if you haven't already. I would appreciate it, and I'll see you guys later.